English broadcaster has revealed he's recovering in hospital after suffering a shocking and painful fall.
You know, it's funny how things start, right? Just one tiny little moment. And then, bam, that one moment turns into a total disaster. And for one of the most famous, and let's be honest, outspoken guys on TV, it's not just happening once, it's happening twice at the exact same time. So today, we're diving into the two massive fractures in Piers Morgan's world. First, you've got this crazy physical injury. And second, there's this absolutely explosive legal battle. We're talking potentially billion-dollar consequences here. Let's break it all down. All right, let's tackle that first fracture. The one that's, a literal broken bone. This wasn't some big dramatic thing you'd see on TV. Nope. It was just a simple trip. A little fall in a London restaurant that somehow instantly blew up into a massive medical emergency. And honestly, the way Morgan described it himself, it's classic Piers. No sugarcoating, just that blunt style he's known for. He said, "I fell like a sack of spuds." I mean, you can just picture it, right? That sudden, heavy thud. Ouch. And the damage? Oh, it was bad. We're talking a fractured neck of the femur, which is basically one of the worst ways you can injure your hip. The only way to fix it was a full-on hip replacement. So yeah, this was way more than a little sprain. This is a major, life-changing surgery. But of course, this is Piers Morgan we're talking about. Even lying in a hospital bed, he just couldn't help himself. He had to stir the pot a little. And his public reaction to all this, well, it dragged a very famous and let's say very familiar political name into the mix. So he lays out what his recovery is going to look like, and it's pretty rough. 6 weeks on crutches, and get this, no long flights for 3 whole months. Now, for a guy who's constantly flying all over the world for his job, that's not just annoying, that's a huge problem. And then he drops the punchline. Just a perfect piece of Piers Morgan sarcasm. But here's the thing, it wasn't just a random dig. See, Morgan and Trump go way back, like 17 years back, to when Morgan actually won the first season of Celebrity Apprentice. So yeah, that little jab, it's got a whole lot of history behind it. And just like that, his post blows up online. Other TV hosts like Lorraine Kelly started chiming in, lovingly calling him a daft bugger. It just goes to show, even when the guy's laid up, he still knows exactly how to get everyone talking. Okay, so while all of this is going on with his hip, his professional life is starting to crack in a totally different and maybe even more dramatic way. Over on his show, Piers Morgan Uncensored, a massive legal bomb with international reach was just about to go off. So let's look at who's involved here. First, you've got Candace Owens, the conservative commentator, who said some really controversial stuff on his show. The target of what she said? None other than Brigitte Macron, the First Lady of France. And then you've got Piers stuck right in the middle as the host whose show is now ground zero for this whole mess. Really, this whole thing boils down to one word: defamation. And here's the wild part. Brigitte Macron had already filed this huge 219-page lawsuit about these very claims. But even with that hanging out there, Candace Owens goes on Piers' show and just doubles down, repeats the whole thing live on the air. And this is where things go from just a serious legal problem to something that could be absolutely catastrophic. Even Piers himself seemed to realize the incredible risk his guest was taking, not just for herself, but maybe for his entire show. So you have to ask, right? Just how big of a deal is this? We are not talking about a little fine here. We're talking about a number that could set a whole new precedent. $1.6 billion. That's the amount Alex Jones was ordered to pay for his horrible lies about the Sandy Hook shooting. When Piers brought up that number, he was making a very clear and very scary comparison for Candace Owens. He was warning her about the unbelievable financial price you can pay for this kind of thing. And he did not hold back. He looked right at Candace Owens and gave her that warning straight up on his own show. He was pretty much saying, look, you are walking straight into a legal wood chipper, and you are going to lose. So when you step back and look at the whole situation, it's pretty intense. Piers Morgan is kicking off his year trying to handle two massive problems at once, one in the hospital and one in the courtroom. You could say his year is, well, literally cracking under all this pressure. Think about it like this. On one hand, you've got the physical break caused by one wrong step, and the recovery is pretty clear, about 3 months. But on the other hand, you have this legal break caused by words said on TV with a potential price tag in the billions and a recovery timeline that is, well, who knows how long that could take. So, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if he's dealing with recovery from surgery or the fallout from his show. It's obvious Piers Morgan is in for a really, really tough year. And it leaves us with some pretty big questions about where all this is headed. So, first up, let's talk about the personal side. That jab at Trump, was it really just a joke from a guy laid up in the hospital? Or is there something more going on there? A hint of some real tension in that very long, very complicated relationship of theirs? And maybe even more important, there's the legal question. Is Piers Morgan's warning gonna come true? Could Candace Owens really be looking at a payout that's anything like what happened with Alex Jones? That, right there, is a billion-dollar question. And it's gonna be absolutely fascinating to see how it all plays out.